All right, guys. Well, I want to say welcome to everybody who's going to be joining us today. My name is Ryan. I'm going to be the moderator for this panel. Panel is going to be So You Want to Be an Author. So we're going to be talking about some of the first steps that you guys took when you began your journey to becoming an author, things you may have wanted to do differently, so on and so forth. We talk about those in here. We've got a bunch of great people joining us today on this panel. Looking forward to hearing from each and every one of you. Why don't we start today with giving us an introduction as to who you are, what you've been working on, some of the things you have coming out. Michael, we'll start with you.
Oh, okay. So I have I'm the author of the Threads of Fate series. I'm also co-authoring a series called Year of the Sword with Dakota Kraut. I on my Patreon, I have another series running called oh, there's Dakota. Hi, Dakota.
Hi guys. I didn't get a link. Luckily I had two authors from my company in the channel. So
Yeah. So I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, it's called Wandering Warrior, Judge, Jury, and Executioner. That's a lot of fun, and yeah, that's about it. I've got what 6 books written, 5 books out right now, and this in the coming next year, I'm hoping to hit 9 books out, maybe 10. We'll see what happens. Since I'm got 1 book banked already, and hopefully more will be coming soon.
Very cool. Excellent to hear that. Jay, how about you go next?
So I write Touch of Power series and the Rise of the Mystic Mage series. That's I'm writing Rise of the Mystic Mage book 2 right now. And I have another project that I'm really, really behind on and don't talk about because I feel terrible about it. There's also a charity anthology that I'm in that's going to be Kickstarter sometime in the new year, I think. So yeah, that's me.
Very cool. Dakota, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi guys. I'm Dakota Kraut. I'm a author. I write in lit RPG, cultivation, game lit genres. I'm also the owner and president of Mountain Dale Press, and we focus on those same genres as well. And yeah, we do pretty well. So check out our stuff. Great authors.
Cool. Dean, you want to go next?
Sure. Excuse me. I'm Dean Henniger. I'm the author of the Limitless Lands, Derelict, Cat Core, War Core series. So I've got 18 different books out, and just excited to be on the panel with all you guys.
Excellent. And Matt?
My name is Matt Dinneman. I write in the lit RPG and horror space. My most recent series is Dungeon Crawler Carl. And Dean, he showed a Cocker Spaniel on screen just before we started. And so it kind of ruined my whole morning. That was a joke.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you guys coming here to join in and talk about some of the stuff that we're doing. We're going to have some of the comments come in as we go. If anybody has any questions, type them into the comments comment section of the Facebook page we're on, and we'll read those out to anybody who's on here. If you haven't already, give permission to SteamYard. Hopefully, you've done that by now. You've been listening to a lot of these panels, but if you haven't done it yet, give permission to the SteamYard there. We have a link that you can click on and give permission to see your name and your profile picture. It lets us know who you are when we're talking to you. But thanks again, guys, for coming in here. So some of the things for people who may be looking to become an author for the first time. I mean, for some of you, that may have been a while ago. But still thinking back to the times when you were first looking at doing publishing for your first book. What are some of the pitfalls that you'd found the first time going through that you might want to encourage somebody to try to do something to go around? Michael?
So I'm kind of the Cinderella story, if you will, because of Dakota.
Dakota like saved our bacon. So
I know, right? But
he's the Prince Charming of lit RPG.
Yes.
So what I did is I was going back to school to become a college professor. I speak 7 languages, spent a lot of time in the military,
wow.
And I was hurt really bad, and so I was medically retired from the military, and
everything tries to kill Michael.
Yeah, everything tries to kill me. It's a thing.
Everything.
Struck by lightning twice.
Dakota was there to kill him the first time we met him, but picked him up anyways.
Yeah.
Luckily,
but,
the assassins failed.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I was stuck. COVID shut my college down, so that kind of put a temporary, what I thought was going to be a temporary stop on my forward progression of what I wanted to do. And my wife was tired of me pestering her because she was also in the military, and she was working on a COVID floor during the COVID, during like the height of COVID. So she's exhausted. She'd come home, work ridiculously long shifts, come home, and then I'm there to pester her. And she's like, you know what? Just leave me alone. Why don't you go write that book you always talk about? She did. Yes, you didn't say it quite like that, but she said it like that. But
She's
nice.
so nice. She would never say it like that.
Yes, Brian, that's all true. I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll do it. I'll write that book. So I wrote about half a book, and I had some friends read it, and they were like, oh man, this is actually really good. You should see what people, you maybe should talk to publishers. So I shot out emails to 3 different publishers, and Dakota got back to me like right away. And so him and I had a video call, and none of the other publishers ever answered me because they suck. And so, but it was like less than it. I still had to go through the quality control process that Moundell Press has, but like he liked my realistic fight scenes and how I. Since I spent so much time in the military and actual fighting and stuff, I have very descriptive fight scenes, and he really liked that. So he sent me through the process, and then I was signed like a month later, and it's been cherries ever since.
Mine was more like that, but like more. I didn't approach Dakota. Dakota approached me. I had written my first book in like 17 days, and by the end of those 17 days Dakota had approached me, and it was really kind of funny. He sent me this message on Royal Road, and I went to my brother and said, hey, who's this Dakota guy? Do you know him? And my brother's like, these are the books I've been trying to get you to read for 6 months. And I was like, oh, okay. So
her brother being Xander Boyce, author of the Red
yes,
series.
which, then when I was talking to Dakota about it, I mentioned my brother, and he's like, oh yeah, I should talk to him too. So I'm still claiming that Xander got a contract because of me. So yeah, no, I was definitely out of the blue. I have never gotten a rejection letter. I
can send you one if you want.
You can.
Oh!
I'll take one. I mean, I've never felt the need to go, like, I have enough friends in trad publishing that I've never felt the need to go that route. I'm really happy with Moundell. But I think one of the things to look into, and that's one of the things I did when Dakota contacted me, was I looked into him as a person and a company, and they were just starting out. But it was making sure that you have the right fit and that they're going to be able to do the things that you want to, because I have self-published a book as well, and that is significantly harder than just letting Dakota and Danielle take care of all of the stuff that I hate.
That's funny. And actually, I got to meet Xander yesterday. I was on a panel with him with the Lit RPG and D&D. So it's good to complete the set. I've got you both now on panels.
Even though he's in the Coast Guard, he's still pretty cool.
I mean, yeah.
And no, Paul, I don't like USMC and squirrels. Paul, every time.
All right, Dakota, you want to go next?
Yeah. So the question is pitfalls in when you're starting out, right?
Correct. Something that you might have found that you want to let people know, how something you would have done differently.
Okay, guys. So when I first got going with all of this, there was, like basically nothing in the way of this genre out and about, right? And so a lot of what I did was, there was like just a few, I should say, not nothing, but there was only a few, and just a few couple of books, no real completed series, nothing like no tons of stuff like there is now. And so as it started becoming a hotter genre, like we started getting like contract offers, you know, and from like audio, from all sorts of all these other places. But my experience in the military really made me super leery of contracts, right? Like anyone who's ever talked to me about contracts knows that I hate them, and I hate them a lot. So I would say, you know, like it's really cool, sure, to have a publisher. But I highly recommend everyone try self-publishing at least once, unless they get a really good deal right away, because if you don't know what it takes to make everything happen for yourself, it's really easy to get duped into losing a lot of money for something that might not take the amount of effort that someone is claiming it does, right? So I would say be cautious, you know, like write those books, but be cautious when you're walking into the publishing world, because there are a lot of people that treat it in a very predatory way. And like Jay said, if you take a look at the person that you might be working with in the future, and you had to gauge them as a business and as a person, I really agree with that. So yeah, that's my starting advice.
Very cool. All right, Dean.
Yeah, I had kind of a similar experience to Michael. I was in the military. I was injured and unable to work my civilian job anymore. So while I was bored and recovering, I started reading a lot and kind of just happened into Lit RPG. I've never written anything before, but I just fell in love with the genre. And then I remember, I won't mention the book, but I remember reading one and realizing, wow,
I could write that better. Did you get that? I could write the better.
I did. I was reading it going, this is horrible. And I thought I could do this better. And so I decided, just not out of fun, to might as well take a crack at it, and put my first few chapters up on Royal Road, and it did well. And, you know, Limitless Lands was born from that. And it's, you know, 18 books after that. I started in 2018. But everything I have is self-published, so that's kind of the route I know of so far.
Very cool as well. All right, Matt, how about you?
Well, my story is a little different than most of these guys, and if you talk to like 100 authors, you're gonna that have sold a couple books, you're gonna get 100 different stories. No two stories are gonna be exactly the same. But I started writing in the 90s, a long time ago, and then I was publishing short stories.
Yeah, like you were writing longer than Dakota's been alive. How does that make you feel?
You all.
Brutal. You didn't know you were going to come on here and get brutalized, did you?
We can only do it because we love Matt, and he's wildly successful.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, so I was going to school. I wrote a short story that won some fancy award way back in 1999 in the old days, you know. And I said to myself, hey, I want to be a writer. And back then, self-publishing wasn't really so much a thing as vanity publishing was. And Amazon didn't really exist for ebooks yet. And I wrote a novel and ended up getting picked up by like a mid-sized traditional publisher. And I made like maybe $500 off of it over the course of its life. And I just kind of plugged away for years and years and years, writing books, selling mostly short stories here and there, never making more than, pocket money. And then when this genre became a thing, I fell in love with it immediately, with the Russian books, like The Way of the Shaman and all that stuff. And I did the same thing. I was like, hey, I could write one of these things. So I wrote a book called Dominion of Blades, and that did fairly well. But the pitfalls,
I thought it was good.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
There's so many pitfalls. That could be its own whole panel. My biggest, people are so eager to just like write something. I finished this book today at noon. How do I get it on Amazon tonight? And you got to step back and spend some time talking to people, looking. Don't rush into anything, I guess. It's exciting, it's new, it's cool, but don't just throw it up on Amazon without, getting it edited by a third party, or at least having someone else look at it. Don't sign with the first, Prince Charming who shows up in your email box without, looking at all the other options, that sort of stuff.
It is not the era where you can put up a hand-drawn cover anymore and have it be successful.
Right.
That was an era in Lit RPG. Some of the first Lit RPG
Whoops.
books did do that.
That was me.
The black and white cover.
Yep, you know it, bro.
They were
Because he's
distinctive.
colorblind. He's
They were-
colorblind, so black and white. He was like,
they
"Hey,
were
it's good
I thought they were phenomenal.
yeah."
Yeah. So I was
They
like,
kinda
"Oh my
freaked
god,
me
it's
out, I'm not
perfect!" And
gonna
he's like,
lie.
"Well, I'm going to add color now." I was like, "Please don't." I can see this.
It's asking. There wasn't color already. I don't.
Go on. Sorry, man.
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, I'm done.
Oh, okay.
Well, then we got a great question here from Ryan DeBruin. Glad he could join us in here to poke fun at
Ryan.
you guys as well.
Ryan.
What was the hardest thing about the change from being an author as a hobby to making this more of a serious career for each of you? Matt, why don't we go backwards this time? We'll start with you.
Okay, well, for me, I'd been self-employed for a while now, because if you like Google my name and click on images, that you'll see like I sold art for a living. I still make art. Like
His
if
stuff is
you
in
go into walking,
IKEA.
yeah, like IKEA has a new feature that's coming out with my stuff in next month in theory. But that's what I did. So there's like this, but I remember distinctly going from like I was in the corporate advertising world, and I moved to art full time, and there's like this terror that where your safety net like comes out from underneath you, and it's hard to explain without experiencing it. From the monetary aspect, it's terrifying. It's scary. Suddenly you don't have insurance unless you pay for it yourself. I wasn't in the military, so I don't have some of the benefits like that, and it's all on you. It's hard to like quantify what that's like. You're wandering into a forest without any supplies, it feels like. So it's scary.
Mhm.
Especially when you have like family and children and they like want to eat at least once a day and all that stuff.
Ugh, isn't that the worst? Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't have.
That's
the
why I
family
hoard
and
animals.
children.
I mean, in case,
But I was kind of mine was more COVID related. Michael, put it down.
No.
I hate you right now. I'm hungry. I had food poisoning all night, so I have nothing in my stomach.
Well, I'm about to have chicken and mashed potatoes in my stomach.
She does. Amanda makes great food. But no, I agree with Matt. Like, it was kind of a scary jump. Like, I actually have to be responsible, and like, I'm not super responsible all the time. Like, since I don't have a schedule anymore, like, I am not always the best person about keeping on a schedule and like consistency. When you have to change from like becoming a full-time author, you have to be your own boss, and that is really hard sometimes. Like, because I'm just like, no, I want to play a game today, or I like find a new cool book and I'm like, and I'm just gonna read this until 6 a.m.
yeah, it's really easy to go down rabbit holes. Like you want to research something and suddenly it's 3 days later. And
Never just research.
Oh,
Yeah.
for hours.
So I would say, like, if I'm looking at I have this conversation with a lot of people all the time, right? Where I'm like, they say, when do I go full time? And I have kind of a stock answer, like, because the real thing is whenever it's right for you, right? That's the only thing. But I will say that it's a very smart idea to have 6 months of savings put away, not just bills, but also living, right? So like going out and having not a vacation maybe, but having some time where you can like take your significant other out for a special meal or something else. Like have 6 months of money put away, right? For bills and for life, and have data, like show that you can do this while you are doing other things, right? So when people are working full-time jobs, they're like, when do I leave my full-time job? And I say, and the answer is when you can afford to do it and you can show that you can do it consistently, right? My wife is a PhD, and she she left her job a month after I left mine, and she had all the insurance. She had all the good stuff, and I was just, a bachelor of science in computer science, and I had been programming for a while, so that was easy for me to give up. It was really hard to give her stuff up, but we were able to do it, and it's been really successful. But we only did that, like I said, because we had that historical data that said we can do it. So that's my advice. And so
And I will say, like, that is different for everyone. Matt has a family and kids. Dakota has his wife and 2 kids. I don't. So my ability to go full time is a lot easier for them than a lot of other people, possibly because I only have me to take care of.
That's true.
Yeah,
Dean, you
and
want to
for-
get on this one?
Yeah, it was a little bit different for me because I was out of commission for the Army, but I had also kind of retired from my civilian career too. So there wasn't the financial burden of having to sell enough books to live on. For me, it was more that pressure of, I'm very driven. I came from, I ran car dealerships, so I'm used to working 18 hours a day, and to try to find that life balance while writing, but still enjoying time with family was rough. So, that's something you got to look out for is just, I've got a wife and kids and I want to spend as much time with them as I can, but I also don't want to let my fans down by, stopping writing for 6 months and not producing anything. So it's a balance you got to find.
Very true. Be difficult. Michael, you want to put the chicken down for a second and join us? I'm just kidding.
I'm not sitting down. I'll stop eating for a minute.
Stop shoving the food, Michael. Stop.
I'll pause. There we go. For now, I suppose.
No,
Did you bring enough to share? I mean,
He did
I've
actually.
got
but-
more. I've got more. If you want to come visit, you're more than
I
welcome.
mean, I can be there in 20 minutes, man.
I know. But no, so for benefits, there is it's like called the Authors Guild.
Yep.
that you can
Authors
join.
Guild.
Yeah, and that does give
It's not
like
SIPWA,
medical-
right?
SIFWA can do that too.
It's what?
SIFWA.
Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America.
Xander's like 15 minutes. I'm coming over. Yeah, for those who don't know, myself, Xander, and Dakota all live very close to one another. Oh, and
And
Carl.
Oh, this little-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully soon Ryan DeBrun as well. But anyway,
That's like
Creating-
cult-like behavior.
They're creating a commune,
No,
I-
it's not. It's
I
definitely not a
almost
cult or a
pictured
commune
it.
yet.
but
Yeah.
it is going in the direction of commune.
I'm thinking more like Mountaindale Mafia. Yeah.
yes, that's what we'll call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say for me, I never really had the hobby of writing. It was just, like I said, I just kind of fell into being a successful author. Like it just landed in my lap. Yeah. Okay. Now, yeah, that's true. Yeah, my wife I did write a lot of like training manuals for the military. I did write some training materials, some educational materials for helping people to learn for English speakers to learn Arabic, that kind of stuff. Like I did do that kind of like technical writing, but yeah, I never wrote for fun until I became an author, and it's awesome. Like this is the best job ever. I can eat chicken while talking to fun people online, and I'm wearing pajama pants right now, and I'm in a recliner. This is the best. This is
Yeah,
like the
just-
best, man.
It is
Alright,
true, like having that freedom to actually like do anything that you want to. Like you create your own schedule, and so like if you can stick to your schedule, you really can make time for anything you want.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be one of the big tough points is sticking to your schedule because you
Mhm.
now have the freedom to do whatever you want to. So I could definitely see that being a big pitfall of, oh, somebody called and said you want to go hang out this evening, but I have this deadline I'm trying to hit for myself for putting out so many words or so many chapters or whatever the case may be. I could definitely see that being a big pitfall in being your own boss there. I had another question in from JD. It says, are there dream projects you've held off on due to not aligning with who you're currently writing or publishing with?
So many.
Michael, you want to start?
So many. Oh man. I have this amazing Ghostbusters like series idea that would just it would be awesome. So I have this great idea for a Western. I love Louis L'Amour. And I have this great idea for a Western. I'm trying to remember what else? I don't know. I have like 20 something books planned out, like with super rough outlines and some bullet points that I probably will, maybe if I'm lucky, get to less than a quarter of those, just because my writing speed just isn't fast enough to be able to write everything I want.
Makes
And I'm
sense.
sure I'm not the only one.
Sure. Jay?
Mine's definitely not fast enough for me. If anything, I have always I really love twisted fairy tales. And so if I was to write anything that wasn't lit RPG, it would be twisted or modern day urban fantasy fairy tales. So that's kind of where I would go if I wasn't writing lit RPG, probably.
Yeah. Dakota?
I mean, yeah,
Oh,
there's
God,
always
Caitlin's here. No, sorry.
there's always things that we want to write, right? But I mean, a lot of it is who's our current audience? What are their expectations? Do we have current series going? And if so, like, can we set those aside to start a new thing, or is that going to cause issues? And I'm lucky because I do have a really pretty good production speed. I write about a book a month, and then I don't publish a book a month, but I write about a book a month, and then
he sits on them.
And I
He's
do
so fast.
sit on them. I really do.
He is so fast. It is insane.
But I also do fairly extensive editing, right? So I'll write that book, and then I'll go through like 2-3 weeks of editing, and so like the actual like I have like 4 or 5 books that I have written and have not yet published, right? Now, do I have things that I wish I could write? Kind of, but also not really at the same time. I'm writing what I think is going to be the best for the genre, like the best for me as an author, the best for making the genre more open to people that are in epic fantasy. And so whatever I think is the genre, right? Like, I'm not going to do a bunch of romance because I'm not writing romance. I'm writing lit RPG. I'm not going to like do horror because I'm not writing horror lit RPG, right? And I'm writing just kind of straight down the line epic fantasy lit RPG, right? And that's what I want to do. So yeah, I mean, yes and no, I guess, would be the answer that I would give to that.
Okay. Dean?
I don't think there's any of us that doesn't have a binder full of ideas that we want to get to at some point in our life. And they kind of move around in order of like which one I want to do next. But I'm also really cognizant of the fact that I want to finish the series that I started. So I'm at one point I was trying to write too many at once. Now I've just narrowed it down to 2, and that's all. I'll work on 2 series at a time. That way I can actually complete something for the readers, and they can have a conclusion to the actual story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a million things I want to do.
You finished Limitless Lands, didn't you?
I did. There's 5 books in that one, and the one I'm working on now is the sequel to it.
And showing you can complete things is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm the same way. I write a lot more slowly than a lot of you guys do, and I have so many different ideas rattling around in here and a lot of them are in different genres too, which is problematic in certain ways. I mean, if time was unlimited, I would want to write, a world in Dakota's world, a book in Dakota's world. I would, I'd love to write.
Yeah, we can make this happen.
Invent a time machine where I can freeze myself like Bill and Ted style, and come back with a beard, and then I'm down.
We just
but
need cloning. Cloning is what we need.
No, I mean, I have an idea for like the coolest, cozy fantasy book. I just go on and on and on and on. I am constantly coming up with new ideas and forgetting them, and I never write them down because I'm an idiot. But yeah. So the answer is yes.
Nice way around getting back to that one. But yeah, I totally understand that too. People come up with those ideas. Sometimes you're out and about and you just didn't get it written down. It's definitely happens. I got a question coming in from, I can't tell who they are. They didn't click on the link, but it's a great question. What was it that made you realize that to be a successful writer, you needed to run your writing like a small business instead of simply writing books? And what was the first step that you took to do that? Michael?
For me, I was instantly writing to make money. I was instantly writing to be a business. Because, well, okay, I guess I take that back. When I was writing in my little like echo chamber of self for the half of my first book, I was more writing to see if I could do it. But like as soon as I signed a contract with Dakota, I was like, okay, I'm doing this for the purpose of, you know, paying a house off. Like I want to be debt free because being disabled military, I live on a fixed income, and having an extra influx of cash to be able to get rid of debt would be fantastic. And yeah, definitely it worked out pretty good. Worked out pretty solid. I'm not mad about it. But yeah, it was like for me, writing to be a business was pretty fast.
Okay. Jay?
I had 2 other jobs at the time. So I was working as an editor, and then I was also working as a transcriptionist at my local college. So I was doing a lot with writing as it was, but I wasn't actually writing my own books at that point. And I thought, you know, I've been writing since I was 10 years old. So I really thought that it was going to be like one of my other ideas where I was just like, okay, I just need to get this out of my head and then I'll be done with it in a week and I'll move on with my life. That's not how it happened. I haven't moved on with my life. My life changed significantly because of this. And it also happened at a time when I was going through some major health crisis stuff and had to completely change my life. And so I just kind of went, why am I not doing what I want? And so I started doing what I wanted and going after things. And so it's kind of one of those things where I saw it as an immediate need, and it also helped to pay my medical bills. And as soon as I realized I was making like real money off of it, that's when I was like, oh yeah, like this actually is paying my bills. And my other job, my day job became, this is giving me less money than writing. I'm only doing it because I enjoy it. And so once I stopped enjoying it, I just said, well, my writing is paying the bills and I'm going to go full time.
Cool. All right. Dakota?
Yeah, so basically it was when I realized that I was just in a kind of a bad situation, right? Like before I was writing, I worked like 2-3 jobs at a time. I was active duty AGR and then reservist, and that sucked. And it was basically just culture shock over and over and over. And then I don't know, moving into like business. I've always treated everything as business, I suppose. Like I don't really have a lot of hobbies that are not some revenue generating in some way, because I don't like to be amused. Like I like all of my entertainment to require thought. And so like when I'm reading, I'm always in the moment. I'm always thinking about what's going on in front of me. And I can tell you that when I'm talking to people who, want to work with me, the way that I look at this is I look at my company as a larger company that is acquiring startups, right? So, because when someone comes in with a new series, that's intellectual property at a level that is going to have value essentially forever, right? And if it doesn't, like that, we can't work with them, right? If we don't think it's gonna, be a successful series. But I always recommend to anyone who is trying to do this as a business to treat it as a business, because it is. Even if you're just a brand new author, all that means is you're a startup. If you're a more established author and you have a bunch of series that are doing really well, all that means is you're a more mature company, right? And so if you're going to work with someone else like who is a larger company, because that's what it is, you had to see yourself as a small company being purchased by a larger company, or getting assistance from it. So just that's my 2 cents on it.
Very cool. We lost Dean there for a second, but it looked like Matt walked over and hit whatever
Love
Wi-Fi
it.
box was on the wall to make it come back
Legit what it
on.
looks like.
So
It is, yeah.
He flipped a switch for my internet somehow.
Dean, you want to weigh in on this one too?
Yeah, as far as treating it like a business, for me it was a little surreal. I had no intention of this becoming a business. I always wanted to publish a book. So when I had the time and wrote my lit RPG, I put it out there. And I was the one that was probably the most shocked when a couple days later, a few people bought it, and then a week later, a few thousand people had bought it. So it was really a shock to the system. But I think coming from the business world, and that's where my degrees are in and everything else, it was a fairly simple transition once I realized, hey, this is a business. This isn't just a one-time hobby deal. And thankfully, I'm blessed with a wife that has a great head on her shoulders, and she handles all the financial piece for me, so I can focus on writing.
Very cool. Matt, you want to weigh in too?
Well, I'm a terrible business person. I always have been. If I didn't have to eat, I would say, here, you take all the money and all the stuff.
Matt
and
is the
just let me do
starving
this."
artist.
I've been self-employed, like I said before, for a decade plus before this, and I've always been able to find like a happy medium between like businessy stuff and arty
Being a
stuff.
rock star.
And that's a good sign if someone's not a good business person, is if they're a musician. Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Matt also is in a band, and
Yeah,
he
that's
does
why I
his
said
art,
literally.
and
Literally
he
his
does
cover photo.
he's literally like a rock star.
All his roles were for creativity and like art.
Yeah.
No, but I sold out to be an artist. I mean, I really did. I mean, if you look at the type of stuff I drew, and then you listen to the type of stuff, listen or read what I read, you know that my personality doesn't. I made a living selling, pictures of kittens and hats and bunny rabbits with sparkles and butterflies floating all around them, and and that's not who I am. And so I promised myself I would never do that with my writing, which is a bad business decision in some ways. It's worked out for me, but I've also been extremely lucky, I feel. But it comes down to like, should I do this to make more money, or should I do that? Should I actually pay my bills? That sort of stuff. I always
Pay
make
for
the
your
wrong
daughter's
decision. Don't do what I do. But this really is a business. You're forced into it. That sort of mindset, whether you want to or not, and it's dangerous sometimes because it takes up too much time, too much thought process. Too much water out of your cups, however you want to say it. Too many spell slots, and you really need to know that aspect of the business if you want to have any modicum of success. And yeah, so it can be a bumpy road if you're not prepared for it, because there is, especially if you're self-publishing, there's so much behind the scenes bullshit you got to deal with.
Yeah, and it's gotta be hard to... Go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead, Jay.
No, I was just gonna say, I worked for an ad agency for years, and I still hate the behind the scenes of like publishing. So like, even though I know a lot of the stuff that goes into it, I still like going through Mountaindale because they make it easier on me. And like finding someone who makes your job easier, not harder, is important, because if you're going to be constantly butting heads and like making yourself really unhappy, then that's not always worth it.
Yeah, and it's got to be hard for you guys as well to sometimes sit there and think, I'm getting, these negative comments on something that I put out there, but at the same time knowing that you need to go through them occasionally to weed out the good negative comments. They're going to be telling you, hey, maybe this is the direction I should be looking to go, rather than, the exact way that I wanted to. And don't get totally hurt over the fact that it's my art and I've got to do it exactly that way. Have you guys ever thought about having to, or have you ever looked at the comments in that way before? I know that a lot of times some people are just trolls and jerks and assholes, just throwing negative comments up because they can. But sometimes some of the comments can be, good or negative criticism, or positive criticism, I guess you could say. I don't know which direction to go.
Yeah,
You thought about looking at those in that light? Constructive. That's the word I was looking for. Constructive
Yeah,
criticism.
if they have a way to do it better, we just hire them. I mean, really, that's how you stay ahead in the game, right? But I kind of had another question, Ryan, and just because I had this thing, and because everyone here has done this stuff, I'm just wondering, what would you guys like, if you don't mind me asking a question? I'm sorry, I don't mean to change topic on you.
Perfectly fine.
I just for like showing people kind of what it takes, what would you guys say is the average cost to put out your book, right? In your so it, like when you are putting out a book and you're putting out the audio and you're putting like all this stuff, just getting that out, not advertising, not anything else, what do you say that costs, just for people that are looking into doing this themselves?
Oh, well, Michael, why don't we start with you on that one?
About 8 to 10,000, depending on how much your audio narrator costs, and it can go up from there. I mean, it's about $2,000 for if you run it through 2 to 3 rounds of editing, plus a really good cover artist and the typesetting, formatting, all that stuff is about $2,000, and then another, like I said, 6 to 8, maybe even $10,000 for the narration, editing, and like all the other hoopla that's involved in the process. But yeah, about somewhere between $8,000 to $10,000 if you want to have like a 5-star produced book.
Mine was only like 5 to 7.
About 5 to
So
7.
Yeah, but I didn't get. I got a newer narrator, so that I think probably saved some of my costs. She was still really good, but she was newer and therefore had lower cost.
Yeah, I mean, I have Travis Baldry.
Yeah, so your audio costs were probably double mine.
Yeah, but he's worth every penny. Travis Baldry is so freaking awesome.
Dean?
I'm a little different. I typically don't produce my own audio. I've done either royalty share or sold the rights to another company to produce it. But
in that case, what would you say that you've actually paid your narrator then? Like if you're doing a royalty share,
that's a good thing. It's the opportunity cost would be right up there with everything else, if not more. If it's a successful book, it's you end up paying more in the long run. Mm-hmm. So I mean, easily, but with editing, cover art, you're still at that anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 range if you count the opportunity cost of losing out on royalties.
Yeah, to answer that, I like for Dungeon Crawler Carl, I go through Sound Booth Theater, which is a royalty share agreement. For the cover art and all the editing, I've got it kind of nailed down. My expenses per book are a little bit lower than some of these other guys. $3,000 to $4,000, I would say, per book in terms of preparing it for publication.
I would say that was how much my ebook cost too. It was about $3,000 to $4,000.
But
that's right.
But it's kind of a balancing act because, if I didn't have Jeff Hayes narrate it, would it be successful? And the answer is absolutely not. It wouldn't be a fraction of its success. And I could have paid $10,000 to have an audiobook produced by someone else, or I could do royalty share with Sound Booth Theater, and I believe that's the absolute best choice. But I'm also splitting my royalties 50-50 with them, and I mean, and I'm not going to say how much I've earned from my audiobooks, but it's a nice amount of money. So it's just one of those things, and I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly, because he's the most perfect choice for that book. So sometimes you make decisions that may earn a little less money in order to make the product better, I guess. But again, like what we were talking about earlier, some people, they don't understand how much it costs to get the cover art is the first thing everyone sees, and it's super important. And people, they'll go on Fiverr and spend like $30, and then they get in trouble with Amazon because Amazon thinks it's like a stolen cover. There's all these little pitfalls, like we were talking about, that people don't understand until you spend some time in this environment talking to other authors and stuff. And I've also, someone in the comments said 50-50 is better than I got with Tantor. I also have a book through Tantor, and that's true. You can go with larger publishers like Podium and Tantor, and that comes with some great benefits. But again, your royalty, sometimes they'll give you an advance too, but your royalty share is less than that.
Putting out a good money takes money. Or just putting out a good
money takes money. You got to get the money and then just throw it out there.
To make the money tree, you got to water it with money.
Right. And I would definitely say that, like kind of what everyone's saying is that, like to make money, like everyone's heard that cliche, right? But not a lot of people really understand what that actually looks like, right? It's not about just throwing money into stuff. It's not about like dumping 70% of everything you make into advertising. It's not about all this other stuff. It's about using the money that you have in a wise way to maximize the return, right? And so it can be really, really difficult to make that happen. And I mean, I think everyone here has kind of a different way or their own unique way of doing it. But yeah, I mean, to get the attention that the book deserves nowadays, right? This isn't the start of a genre anymore, right? But we need things that are really capturing attention, or we need something that's really specific, something that really pops, really pulls stuff in, like holding a blow up sex toys doll above your head, right? That's quite the attention grabber, right? But not a lot of people can pull that off. Right. But who can really pull that off? I mean, I kind of say only Matt,
Yeah.
But no, I mean, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of expense that goes into this. So that's just another thing to keep in mind when you're considering what do you want to do. If you can make that happen, if you can take all the risk yourself and you really believe in the project, I highly recommend self-publishing, right? Because that is going to give you the most control. It's going to give you the most return. Like if you think that you can do it, like all of the jobs that are required, that is definitely my recommendation to people.
Also, like, be careful though, because there are some people who will say like, oh yeah, I made $100,000 on my book. Yeah, but they sunk $95,000 into advertising. So how much did you really make? Or yeah, like, so it's one of those things, like, be very careful.
Oh, every time.
Be very careful, because there's a lot there, as Dakota said earlier, there are a lot of predatory people in the business. And somebody earlier asked about how you find editors and things like that.
I was alluding to start that for the next question. That was what I was going to do next. Was Lars? It's Lars, by the way. Welcome, Lars.
Hi, Lars.
Love some of your stuff, by the way. But he was brought up the question: the quality of your books going to depend on the quality of your editors. Now, I want to think about this from the standpoint of maybe thinking more about self-publishing in the beginning, or even if you are with a company, thinking about what kind of editors they have. Where do you find or test your editors? What do you think is the best way to find somebody who is really going to do a good job at editing your book? You don't want to just, sometimes all we have is our next door neighbor or best friend who says they got an English degree. But what do you guys think is the best way to find a good editor? Matt, why don't we start with you this time?
I usually steal, and by steal, I mean I look in other people's books and see if they've mentioned the editors. And there's this weird thing in Lit RPG where people don't like to say who their cover artist is or who their editor is. Cover artist, I can always find out who it is if I want to. But
too easy
knowing the art, yeah. But editors, usually if a book is really well edited, and I can tell just from my years of reading, I can go into the book and they'll list who the editor is. Other times, I ask. I don't need to anymore because I have some good people, but you go into groups like the 20 books to 50K. That one's a little dangerous. Or to go into like a book, like the Lit RPG Authors Guild, and say, hey, who did you use to edit your book? And then you ignore everyone that says I'll edit it, and then you look at the people who say, well, I had this person edit my book. And then you go and you actually go to their book and read it and then see what it looks like. I always like to look for, proof of service, I guess, for anything that I use. And that's always worked out for me.
I kind of want to jump on that a little bit.
Go for it, Jay.
Test edits are really important.
Test edit.
Any good editor will do a test edit for you. And that way you can see, give them a few pages to a chapter, and you can see how they go through and what they change and what they go you want to make sure that you're getting the type of edits that you want, and a test edit is how you do that. I had to do a lot of...
You can send out 10 chapters to 10 different test editors and you don't even have to pay for it.
I don't.
That was a
recommend. Don't recommend that.
Just this mismatched editing style the whole way through the book.
Oh, but I mean, I had to do this when I was an editor before I was an author, and I would do it because I was working with people who were doing translations from Chinese and Korean, and I was testing them to see how bad their translations were and how much I had to fix. Mm-hmm. So it was important as an editor to see, okay, how much work is this actually going to take? And then using that to gauge if it was worth my time. And so coming at it from the author way around too, like you really need to have that communication. You want an editor that you will have good communication with. You want somebody who is going to be invested and who wants your book to succeed and who's going to enjoy your book, and like all of these different things. You really need to be careful. And
Don't do it, Caitlin.
don't do it. I will hurt you. I will hurt you. But yes, test edits are really the best way, and recommendations from friends is one of the other
And
ways
going
I-
back to, sorry to interrupt, but you don't know until you know. There can be the world's best editor, and then it just doesn't work out. It's like dating people. Just because someone's hot doesn't mean it's going to work out. As all my ex-girlfriends know. But
it's also important to find someone who
No.
does know the genre.
Oh,
Because
Right,
lit RPG
right.
is
And-
a very different beast
and
than a
there's
lot.
so many pitfalls, and Lars, who asked that question, knows that you never know what's going to happen. So
All right, Dean, you want to weigh in on
Anyway.
this one too?
Yeah, let me weigh in because my first experience, my first book, I didn't have an editor for it. I was one of those that I spent the $50 on the pre-made cover art. I didn't know any better. It was my first book I'd ever published, so it was pretty much the first couple were that way because they were released pretty quick, and they were pretty brutalized in the reviews, and you can see that. And so I got to the point where I found an editor that I loved, and I went back and paid the money to redo those with covers and actual editing. But finding that editor was tough, and I kind of did. There's not a lot of guidebooks on this, so I just asked around the people that are, again, like Matt said, you read a book, the editing's sharp. You ask them, hey, who was this? Who did it for you? And I found one that I really matched with. There's a lot of military stuff in a lot of my books, except for like the Crazy Cat Lady book. And so my editor actually had his master's in military history, and so he catches stuff that I missed, and we just mesh well in it. And since I've hired him, I've never had a complaint about editing in the books after that.
Very cool, Michael.
For me, so Mountain Elf Press has several like narrators, beta readers, all that stuff. They have like teams that work on things, and like you just have to find the person that you mesh with. And I like finding that's what Jay said. Like you have to find somebody that's important, or that knows the genre. Like that's super important. And then, like Dean said, you need to find somebody that you mesh with well. And so I was lucky that one of the people on staff, Eric, him and I get along really well. So I was able to use him as a dev editor, and then there's a copy editor. His guy's name's Adam. He's absolutely phenomenal. Like, and then of course the whole beta reading team at Mountain Dell Press. It really
Awesome.
streamlined the process.
Yeah, and I can tell you
Dakota?
that. So I mean, if you ever look at publishers' contracts, you'll see these things in there that say, like non-disclosure agreement, or hey, you can't hire our people out from under us if you want to go and do things on your own, like basically non-competes with like employees. And one of those things is because of exactly what we're talking about, right? So every person that we work with that is like a paid member of what we do is the result of literally firing dozens of people for that wanted that same position, right? With as many books that we do and as many people as we do, it took a long time to really nail down the services that we wanted to offer, as well as like people that were good at making those services happen, right? And so it's tough. And my whole thing is like, hey, look, you just pay them. You bring someone on for a project and you make sure to give them a copy of the work. And I mean, obviously you're going to do your due diligence, trying to test them and trying to make sure that it's going to work out first. But sometimes it's just not going to. And sometimes you're just going to have to try again with a new person. But I will always say, anyone you ever work with for any reason, right, that is like supposed to be paid, you pay them immediately. Artists, editors, narrators, anybody that you're supposed to pay, that you agreed to pay, you better pay them. And if you haven't, it's not a terrible thing. If you haven't agreed to pay them, it's not a terrible thing to give them a bonus or a nice gift, right? Because people talk, and you can get a reputation real fast, and so can they. right? And so you just go ahead and, even if you don't like what they did, you're just like, hey, thank you for the time. Like, we'll pay you for what you've done, right? Too easy. So just a thing. Like, a lot of people want to work for us for exposure, and my answer to that is what, Michael?
You die of exposure.
That's right. People die of exposure.
Yes, people
That's
die of
right.
exposure. I was like, are you saying you want me to be exposed? Is that what you
No, I got you, Dakota. I got.
That's right. That's right.
People die of exposure.
I say that all the time. Right?
Yes,
It's
yes,
just
he
one of
does.
those things, right?
Um,
So yeah, I mean, it
So-
takes time and it takes effort. I mean, there is no quick. This is the person you want to work with every single time, no matter what.
I will say
I
also,
just-
as an editor, you cannot edit your own stuff. Like,
Cold out
honestly,
there.
like my stuff is you sometimes cleaner than other people's, my first draft, because I was an editor and I write like that. But even I will never catch everything. Even the hundreds of Patreons who read ahead will never catch everything. And Patreons and beta readers are not the same as a good dev editor.
Mhm.
Okay? They're great, they can help, but they are not the same. And a good dev editor will do wonders for your book.
Definitely some great advice. Well, guys, we're down to our last few minutes here, and I do want to give everybody one more chance to throw out some shameless plugs. So, Michael, why don't we start with you? Give us one more update on what you're working on, what you got coming out.
Once again, name's Michael Head. I am the author of the Threads of Fate series. Book 4 in that series, Cenotaph of Bones, which, by the way, awesome band name if anybody wants to use it for that. Yeah, that's my main series. I'm also writing a series with Dakota Kraut called Year of the Sword. The first 3 in that book are out right now. The first 3 books in that series are out right now.
Michael's coming in as an author on book 4.
Yes. Yeah, on it's
just to make that clear.
yeah, their January, February, March are already done out with Dakota, and then I am helping him with the future ones. But anyway, yeah, come check it out. I think I just got a message from Danielle about how both the first book of my series, Reincarnation, and the second book, Winter Trials, are going to be in the Kindle Big Deal, running between November 21st and the 27th. So it's a great time to check them out.
All right, Jay?
Hi guys. So I am currently writing, as I said earlier, Rise of the Mystic Mage book 2. Currently somewhat named Clover City. I'm not sure if that's gonna stick. It's on Patreon if people want to read ahead the raw chapters. And yeah, that's what I'm working on currently.
All right, Dean?
I have a couple completed series. I have Limitless Lands and Derelict and Cat Core, so 3 completed series. And I'm working on Limitless Seas, which is the sequel to Limitless Lands, and War Core, which is a real-time strategy dungeon core novel.
Very cool. Dakota?
Hi guys, I'm Dakota Kraut. I write a whole bunch of stuff, great books, and so I have Completionist Chronicles, Full Murder Hobo, everything soon, and also I am the owner and operator of Moundale Press, so you can come over and see just a ton of super awesome, super elite authors who are in this genre and doing amazing things. So find us at moundalepress.com, moundalepress.store, Facebook, just look for Moundale Press or Dakota Kraut or any of our authors' names. Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, anywhere. Yeah, just Google. It's there.
All right. And Matt, why don't you finish off?
And Matt Dinneman. I'm working on Super Secret Project plus Dungeon Crawler Carl Book 6, The Eye of the Bedlam Bride. That's what it's called. And that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, once again,
Thanks,
thank you
everybody.
guys for coming out and giving us a little bit of information on this. If you guys want to continue this later on, we have the Discord channel as well. You guys can join in, and we hope to get to see you guys there. If you have any more questions, bring them up in the Discord.
And a lot
All
of
right, thank
thanks to Ryan for jumping in.
Yeah,
'cause
dude, thank you so much.
Yeah,
He
thanks,
wasn't supposed to be here.
Yes.
He just came and saved us.
Oh, you're welcome,
It was
guys.
your
I
birthday
really
yesterday, wasn't it,
appreciate
man?
Mine?
Happy
No.
birthday, Ryan.
No.
No.
My birthday's in May.
I take it back.
Take it
That's
back.
just Dakota for you. So.
We appreciate it. Thanks for coming out, guys.
All right, thank you
Thanks,
guys
everyone.
much.